The interesting thing about Spider-Woman is that a lot of people aren't familiar with the musical because it's been done on Broadway in the early 90s, but a lot of people don't do the musical because of the subject matter. They're afraid of it. And so a lot of people are really interested for that reason. And I think this production is also going to be very, very different because it really, the way the set's designed, it's this whole environmental unit that you actually are in the prison cell the entire night, and so you can't escape. And so prisoners are constantly like banging on their cells and banging their mugs and throwing shoes, and you get a real taste of the real prison life in Argentina, which I think was really, really important because of the torture and everything else that was going on then. So that's an ever-presence in the actual production where before, you know, it kind of just all went away and you went into these, you know, movie numbers. So we're doing that, and it's also the intimacy of it is really intense with the show, which is great. So it's a much more moving and heartfelt story than you actually can, you maybe forgot that it was. It's really, I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful love story and about, you know, two people who care so much about each other, and one would give their life up for the other one to help them out and help them survive. So that's the exciting thing about it. I mean, it's been great. You know, we've had John Kander here at the theater, and you know, he spent a whole day working with the cast through the music, which was amazing because you got to see what he and Fred's original intentions were and why they wrote certain things and what the notes were and why they picked those notes and the intervals. And it was great him hearing it, and he actually made changes to stuff. He's like, you know what, let's change this. I think this would be better if we do it like this now, hearing the show and knowing the show. And so, you know, we were making changes in rehearsal with him of, you know, notes and different stuff, like different harmonies and all kinds of stuff like that. So that was great. I mean, it was a great rush for the cast, and he'll be back again, you know, in a week, and to check in on rehearsals again. So, I mean, it's pretty amazing for, you know, for a company to be able to, you know, have someone like John Kander in the room working with them, basically, you know, on every song that he actually wrote. So it was fantastic. Well, the trickiest thing about the show is the set does have 3 levels of these cells. And so staging it, you know, we've come up with this formula in rehearsal that, you know, if you're on the 2nd floor, you're in the front. If you're on the 3rd floor, you're in the back. And the 1st floor is the forefront. So depending on where you're standing, if there's people on top of each other in cells, they're totally, you know, there's one person here and one person right behind them, and you go, oh, they're in 3A and this person's in 2A. And that's how you have to do it. So visually, it's a little tough because you're dealing with a set that is almost 30 feet tall, and we're doing it in a flat room. So when we get on the set, it's going to be very challenging. But what's great about it is that there's so many pathways and walkways where people are constantly moving. So there's these 2 guards that are played by Andrew Brownstein and Chris Block, and they're constantly moving. They're constantly checking out the cells just like a guard would in an actual prison. So you really feel like you're in this world. So, you know, right now they're roaming around, and, you know, I mean, I've given them like road maps and go, you start here, you go to 2. And we have the whole thing numbered and system so people know this is where they are. And then when we actually move into the theater, we're going to put signs in the cells that people know, oh, that's 2B, that's, you know, 2D, that's 3A, so people know where they're going. So, but it is, you have to use your imagination and hope that you're making the right choices. And if not, you just adjust when we get in the theater. But it's a little tricky. You know, Kiss of the Spider-Woman came about, I mean, it's interesting because Fred Ebb and I were very good friends. And Fred for years said to me, you need to do Kiss of the Spider-Woman. You need to do Kiss of the Spider-Woman. And I mean, I've always loved the show. I mean, and working on it, you go, it's so good. The story's so great. The book's great by Terrence McNally, and the songs are fantastic. I mean, there's just some amazing songs in there. So, you know, when the whole Kander Ebb Festival actually came into being, we knew we were going to do the visit, and then we were like, well, let's do, you know, what about Kiss of the Spider-Woman? And that's how it kind of came about, which is great. I mean, and it also fits in, I think, what Signature does. I mean, it's we take musicals that are not mainstream, we reinvent them, which is totally what we're doing with Kiss of the Spider-Woman. It's not the glossy Broadway production. It's really gritty. It's, you know, there's a lot of blood in the show from prisoners being beaten up, which isn't scary. We're just trying to make it real so people get the real experience, which is great. And, you know, you've got, you know, people dancing in boots. They're not in dance shoes, you know, or capezios or anything like that. You know, the prisoners are all dancing in their boots. So it feels like it's totally what Signature is and should be. A Kiss of the Spider-Woman actually is about a prisoner who gets thrown in a cell with a prisoner who's been there for molestation. And the other prisoner is part of the revolution in Argentina and fighting for the revolution. And it's these two worlds colliding. And so these two men who are from opposite worlds of the spectrum all of a sudden are now living in an 8x8 place and having to live together, yet alone, share their lives together. And it's all about actually understanding the other person and understanding the worlds that they come from, appreciating those worlds, and then ultimately helping each other to survive and how they do survive, and giving one's life for the survival of the other, where their friendship really becomes a deep, loving friendship that they end up doing anything, and that includes, you know, one of them getting killed for trying to actually save this guy's life. So it's about family, it's about revolution, it's about the system, and it's also about power and greed, which is really interesting because you look at the social class systems and it deals with that. So it has a little bit of everything, but it's at heart, it's about the human condition and the human connection between these two people and how they grow to understand each other, appreciate each other, and really become the best friends. And what's interesting is, you know, people say, who's the Spider Woman? What is the Spider Woman? And actually, you know, the Spider Woman is a character that Melina brings to life. And her name's Aurora, and she's starred in these films. And he makes up movies that she should star in his mind to survive the prison life. So he makes up these fanciful movies that are just, you know, so out there and saying, you know, what his philosophy is, and if she was starring in, this is what her number would be. So there are these great fantasy musical theater sequences. And the other thing she does, though, become is the kiss of death, because she did one movie in her career where she actually kissed a young child and the child died, and all of a sudden he realizes if you get kissed by her, you're going to die. And so there's a fear of that side of her when you see her not in the movie sequences, and all of a sudden he feels her haunting his soul, the world that he's in. He knows the kiss of death is around the corner. So there's with that, it's scary for him as well, and he knows that that is just like a predator constantly in this world, and he just does not know when it's going to bite. And so she's a great character because she has the best of both worlds. Well, I mean, Kiss of the Spider Woman actually is a very big show for Signature. There's 14 in the cast, 10 in the orchestra, and then you look at all the people behind the scenes. We've had 12 people building the set. We have 7 people on the running crew, and that's what it takes just to do the show every single night. And then that's not including the marketing team that we have working on the show, as well as the development side of you know, getting funders to help support the show. And it is because the theater is only 280 seats. So the fact that you know, the ticket income is never going to cover the cost of doing a musical this big, as well as having an orchestra like that. And I am really a firm believer that if you're going to do a musical, you should not do a musical with, you know, piano, bass, and drums, unless it's, you know, that's what the world it is. If you're going to do a real musical, Broadway musical, you need to have the musicians there to actually support the voices. I mean, they're a character in the play as well. And that's something that we really thrive at doing here at Signature. We do first-class work with real orchestras, not just, you know, 5 pieces in the band. And I mean, it takes extra funding for that, so we really work in getting sponsors, and we're really lucky because the Bernard Family Foundation is a sponsor for Kiss of the Spider Woman, who Kathy Bernard was actually Fred Ebb's niece, which is great. So she has a total connection to the show, loves the show, obviously, and is a good friend of Signature Theater. And so it's stuff like that that you want to find people that are really connected to the work that you're doing and want to support that work and see that work continue to grow. And so, you know, this spring, Signature's doing this big Kander Ebb Celebration here at the theater, and it's really exciting because we've got 3 main musicals, Kiss of the Spider Woman, The Happy Time, and The Visit. And we've got great people that are doing all those shows, from Cheetah Rivera and George Hearn. We've got Will Chase and Natasha Diaz and Hunter Foster and David Margolis, and I mean, it's really exciting. And then we also have cabarets. We have Karen Akers coming to do her show that she did in New York at the Carlisle up there, all on Kander Ebb. And we've got a gallery of Kander Ebb memorabilia. We've got a dance concert with dancing to a contemporary dance concert, dancing to Kander Ebb. So it's a real eclectic mix, really, for 4 months to celebrate the work of Kander Ebb. And I really felt, You know, they are giants in the American musical theater, and they really deserve something that was of this stature. You know, it's kind of amazing that they have 2 shows running on Broadway, and they're going to have, you know, these 3 shows running here, and it's really great. I mean, we can all hope that, you know, our work is that, you know, alive when we're, you know, in our 70s and 80s, that is really supportive of that. And so it's a very exciting time, and what's been really fantastic about it is that the shows that we're doing is The Happy Time is a forgotten musical, Kiss of the Spider Woman is a musical that isn't done very often, and then a brand new musical, The Visit, based on the play. So we've got the best of Kander and Ebb, which is great, and it's really going to give people a great taste of their work and a real appreciation of what they have done and contributed to the American musical.